Awesome. All right.
Excellent. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I have the pleasure of introducing Day One, and we have our speaker extraordinaire here, Gil. Day One Media is a video production firm laser focused on authentic stories, high impact motion graphics, and striking photography. Gil is a busy man. He is the president of the Calgary Professional Videographer Association. He's also an instructor at Mount Royal University and chief storyteller with Day One. And I'm going to give the floor to Gil as he's got some fantastic tips and things to consider when you're building your client stories through video. Gil.
Thanks so much, Danny, and welcome to everybody. Thanks for joining in. So today we are really focused on telling great stories through video interviews. And there's a lot of discussion about video these days going on out there. We're going to focus on the slides here, so I'm just going to move the camera off of me, if that's okay. You probably had enough of looking at me, I'm sure, but
Gil, you might have to actually return your mic on when turning off your camera. It could have muted your microphone.
Apologies, are we there?
Yes, hear you loud and clear.
Sorry about that. I think I'll just start over there. We're back. Okay, my apologies there. Awesome. So we are talking about telling great stories through video interviews today. And we really want to focus on this idea of storytelling because, nobody really likes being sold to, but everybody loves a great story. And so, stories are there's a quote that says stories are the communal currency of humankind, in the sense that stories are what bind us together. They create community, and they are the legends that are passed down through the generations. And so telling great stories really is effective in drawing customers. And we're going to talk just a little bit about that. And then we're going to jump right into how can you actually do this and make it happen? And how can you start using video as a product and for your client. So let's give you a quick introduction of the team here. So Day One Media is a group of storytelling experts, and we are really focused on using visual media to tell great stories. And so we often are known as video producers or videographers, but we don't really focus on talking about that as much as the fact that we want to help clients tell great stories. And that's what we're really good at. So that's me on the left. And actually beside me is Lori, who's also in with us today. And you probably might have seen her at Communo if you've been to the Calgary events. So we work together and collaborate to really serve our clients. Here's some of our clients, and we've been around for 5 years, and we've been with Communo just since September. So, but in our 5 years, we've had a great ride serving some really great national brands across the country. So some of the real highlights are just working for our mayor, Nenshi, who was running the race again back in the fall, and we were able to tell all his stories through video and social. We've done lots of great stories for Loblaw. We've done video for broadcasting for the Calgary Marathon. So there's just been some super awesome experiences. But let's jump right into what we're talking about today, and that is, why do we want to tell stories? We know the fact that they are effective in bringing people together, but what are some other reasons? And there are so many of them that it's just a great topic to talk about. But the ones that really stand out for me is that they connect with people emotionally. And so stories have that ability to kind of touch the heart. You know, you can read about stuff and they just kind of become facts, and you can talk to people and it's kind of intellectual a lot of ways. But when we hear a great story, that really touches the heart, and that's kind of what moves people. Another reason is that they give a brand great significance. A brand really starts to stand out when there are great stories tied to it. We start to associate the brand with the stories, and they start to develop meaning and have significance. And when a brand has significance, that's when it stands out in the customer's mind. Another point is that stories are memorable. Stories stick around, and we remember a great story. You know, if you think about a film, a great movie that you've seen, that story, you know, everybody knows that story because it just sticks in your mind. And so if you've been actually looking at even these images of the pizza on the slides there's a little mini story right there of seeing it being prepared and cooking in the oven, and there's like a mini story right there. And you know, just even that it's making me hungry because I haven't had lunch yet. So let's talk about video now and how stories really work so well with video. It's just a natural fit, the two of them together. So how does video help our storytelling? What does video do for us? The first thing, again, is that video also moves people emotionally. Seeing that image, seeing something come alive, it just, again, it connects with our heart, and it has the ability to make us laugh and make us cry. It just has a lot of ability to move us emotionally, far more than any kind of static content. Another reason is that they create powerful mental images. So, you know, pictures, we often say that, you know, it's better than 1,000 words. Those mental images that we see from photos and images, they stick in our heads and they don't go away in a big hurry like words often might. And lastly, they move people physically. So it's just been so many stats over and over have demonstrated, you know, people after watching video are just motivated to action. You know, videos often have a call to action, and people are ready to do something about what they've seen. They want to respond because they've seen something that has impacted them. I'm going to look at some quick stats. I don't want to spend a lot of time on stats, but it's actually really overwhelming, the amount of stats out there right now, all from very credible sources, such as by 2019, consumer video traffic is going to account for 80% of internet traffic. I mean, that's huge. Just a huge amount of video traffic going on. You know, just anybody that's on Facebook or YouTube knows just the incredible volume of video going on. All the social platforms are now, you know, ramping up their video capabilities. So, you know, 8 million video views on average per day on Facebook, 100% rise in YouTube every year. You know, over half of anybody that's online watches a video, you know, every day. So, you know, mind-boggling. So why would we want to leave behind, get left behind in this area? And, you know, any of our customers that isn't doing that is missing a huge, really grand opportunity. So let's get into how we're going to do this. So here's a couple of goals that you need to make happen. This is what you got to achieve if you want to do this. And that is to make your client look good. They have to look great. on what do you got to do to make them look good in their video, and how are you going to produce great video. So I'm going to give you the tools and the steps that's needed to make that happen. So our very first step is to connect with your client. That's before anything even happens with cameras or anything like that. Connect with your client and plan out that good story. Write the whole thing out. Talk about it. This is me with Nenshi here. He's a super busy guy, but I use that same format, even with, a celebrity. It's like, hey, we need to sit down and figure out what you're talking about here and what is that story that's going to draw people in, that's going to connect them to you emotionally. Plan out that story, write it out, and make sure that it's personal and it's something out of your client's heart. So here's a summary of that. Tell a great story. Don't make a video brochure. There's tons of that out there already, and it has no heart. We need something with emotion. And if you're in literature at all, if you remember back from our school days, all great stories have some really key elements. And those are having character, setting, conflict, and quest, or some kind of adventure. And so you can adapt really any story to have all of these great elements. Every client has some story about who they are and where they came from. What kinds of challenges have they faced to be able to get where they are now? And what kind of victories have they had? Where are they headed in the future? If you can tell that story about the business and not avoid that temptation to just sell, then you're going to have something that is really powerful and very, very emotional. Okay, our next step in the process is scout the location and get answers. So inevitably, whenever we have to do something like this, we are given a location that we got to work with. Typically, it is the office or the location of your client, where they work. It might be an industrial bay, it might be a retail place, it might be an office. So we're just going to use this as a quick example. A giant boardroom like this. I go to these all the time. Scout that location out ahead of time so that you're not surprised. So when you get there, check it out and start asking lots of questions about how this space is going to work for you. Like, can I reorganize the space, move all these chairs around? What kind of lighting is in here? Does it make our client look good? Is there a window in this space? It looks like there's a window kind of on the right side. Is the sun going to be shining in? Is there blinds? Here's a summary of that. And feel free to do a screen capture of any of this stuff if you need. But is there any noise, like HVAC, heating, ventilation, AC? Those can be super loud. Is there like a fridge nearby? Those are often really loud. That's going to affect your sound. Any noise at all from the business? Is there maybe construction going on outside? That can totally ruin what you're doing. Is there traffic of cars or even people walking around? High heels walking by can really ruin your audio. Is there are employees hanging out at the coffee station nearby, chatting it up? So and I never say this to the client, but is the room ugly? It's up to you to bring out their best interest. If that room is ugly and does not reflect the excellence of your client, you need to suggest, hey, we should probably use a different room. So think about that. Think about what it's going to look like in your video. Okay, let's keep moving. So our next point is to prepare and ask great questions. So you really want this atmosphere of going through this with your client. We're not trying to like, okay, we have a great story. We want you to just sit down and tell this story. That for, even a celebrity is really, really hard to do. There's very few people that can pull that off. So what you want to do is with the content, turn them into great questions that you would ask to help bring out that story one point at a time. So really strong leading kind of questions. And you want that kind of atmosphere of like you two are having coffee together and it's just a really relaxing time for your client to just talk about their business. So here's some great questions here. How did your business begin? Tell us about the name. What kinds of struggles have you faced? Tell us about your team, your employees, your company culture, your customers. Do you have any great testimonies from your customers? What values does your company stand for outside of selling the product? Those values are what draw people in. And why is your product so unique? So those are the kind of things that will draw out the whole story and make it easy for your client to do that interview. And as you're doing this, there's more work still for you to do as the expert here. You need to coach them through along the way. And so your job, again, remember our key 2 points is that you need to make them look good. And you're going to get great video out of this. And so that means if they need to rephrase something, you need to help them with that, with wording, with ideas. How about, this word, or how about changing that story up a little bit, and let's just reshoot that question again. So your key is to keep working with them. They have no idea what they look like, what the lighting is like, their posture, all of those things. You are visually checking everything out. And so I personally like to have a friend or an assistant along to help me out on that, because that can be a lot of work for one person. And so, yeah, definitely bring someone along that can be checking out all the details. And Lori on my team does a great job of making sure everything looks great. And so here's a typical setup here with some lighting, and we have a mic. I'm going to go more into those, the equipment here next up here. So that's our story process. It's about getting as organized ahead of time as possible, and then kind of walking, like it's really like holding their hand and going through it together. And that's how you're going to come up with something great. Let's talk about gear. So, this is a really big topic. I mean, there is tons and tons of gear out there, and we could do a whole seminar just on this, but I'm just going to show you quickly what we use, and then I'm going to give you some options for you as alternatives. And so, so here's our basic setup for a shoot like this, where we're interviewing a client, and that is a camera with some mic and headphone inputs. So those are inputs that allow you to plug in a nice mic and put on headphones so you can hear what is going into the camera. So really important features. A lot of cameras don't actually have that, so you need to kind of pay attention to, if you're buying a camera, those are things to look for. The flip out screen is really, really nice too, because it's really hard to see a lot of times. So we want to be able to flip that out. A great tripod is the next thing, with a fluid video head. So most tripods are actually made for photo. So the head on it, when we say fluid, it means it moves beautifully. It'll pan smooth. It'll, tilt. So we need some of that abilities as we are doing video. A lot of people, when they are even in an interview setting, will actually move. They're just animated, and they might move from side to side, and you need a video head that actually will move really smoothly without being shaky. And our third item there is a lavalier mic kit. So this is a mic that clips onto the lapel or the collar of your client, and it puts the mic as close as possible so that we pick up just their sound and nothing else around the room. And so these are the three key things. And if you were paying attention to some of our other slides, we add some extra things as backup, like a boom mic. So that Rode NTG on the left here is our boom mic, and we put that on a boom pole, telescopic boom pole, and we'll listen to it with headphones. This item on the bottom right is an audio recorder. So if you have a camera that shoots great video already, but it doesn't have audio kind of features, this is a unit that you can buy just for a couple $100, and it'll record professional sound. And then you can take those two files and sync them together afterwards. All right, and so here is what we use for lighting. We have 4 lights mainly. That is the key light, as in the main light. We have a fill light that fills in shadows. And we have a background light in case the background is dark. And we have a hair light that literally lights up the hair. So I'm going to show you how these work. And there's a bunch of stands for propping the lights on. And we use LED panels because they are light, they are fast, and they are just economical. So you can find all of these things, of course, on Amazon and everywhere online. But here's some samples of how lighting works. Lighting is another big workshop, but we're going to try to cover that in like 90 seconds here. So I talked about the key light. That's our main light. So on the first image there on the top left, we see a model, and she's just lit with one light from one side. And you can see that creates some really strong shadows, and it gives a very dramatic sort of look, which can be very appropriate. You might just need one light if it's a message that is very dramatic. In the next one, we look at the key light and the hair light. You can see the hair in this male model's is really popping out, that his outline is just popping out from the background. And that's what the key light does. It's a light shining from the top onto his head, and it lights it up and makes him pop. And in our third image, even more so, we have all 3 lights. So the fill light takes out the shadows. And again, she has a hair light that makes her really stand out. She has a bit of a glow about her, and it's really elegant or glamorous. And there's an example at the bottom again of how that works, the key light and the fill light taking out the shadows. It's very rare. We would just use the fill light in the middle photo there because it is very kind of scary looking. All right, we're winding down here. We're going to try to wrap up. We got about 5 minutes. And so there's how we set up our lights. One key light from the front, a fill light slightly off-centered with a camera in the middle, and a hair light kind of up from the top on the hair, and the background light shining at the back. So lots of information for you to mull over. Now, this is our budget kit here, because I recognize that most people do not have tens of thousands of dollars to buy a camera. And, a lot of times you can use your smartphone and it will look just fine. So you could give that a try. There's a little tripod mount that you can order off Amazon or eBay that will connect it to a little mini tripod. Pick up a lav mic. I recommend the Rode Smart Lav, and an extension cord, and connect that to your phone, and you can achieve virtually the same look. With our lighting, we just put our model near a window, like this example here, and there is your basic setup. So we are winding down here. You've got the gear, you've got the skills to pull a good story. I just wanted to show you what things kind of look like here in our example. There's the boom mic, there's a lav mic on the shelf, on the chef, apologies. And here I had 3 people here to couple others to help me out, an interviewer and a production assistant. So you definitely want somebody to help you out in these kind of scenarios. It's a little bit too much for one person. And lastly, shoot lots of B-roll. So B-roll is a term we use for all the images that your client talks about in his story. So in here at the Minhas Steakhouse, he talks about the food, the staff, everything. So we go around and take little clips of everything and we add that to the video, because you don't want to stare at somebody for 3 minutes of just their talking head the entire time. You need great content that keeps it interesting and helps people to understand what's going on. So our last point is to edit that video. And editing video is a different topic altogether, but here are some great examples of software that I would recommend, because there's lots of free kind of tools out there, and I find video learning software, that's a big investment of your time. If you learn something on a cheap free product, most likely it's going to have a lot of limitations, and then you're going to have to start over, or you'll just find that you will want to upgrade and you will start over, and you've invested all of that time and potentially some funds into something that isn't going to work for the long run. So think long term and use something great. So in summary, stay focused on the story, because that's what it's all about. Here's a quick summary. Again, you can grab a screenshot of that. Those are our main points of the day of what you need to do. And again, connecting with the client and plan a good story, scout that location, prepare and ask great questions, walk your client through it with coaching, shoot lots of B-roll, edit with good software, and all along the way, stay focused on your story. So that's the end here. Please post some questions.
That was awesome, Gil. Thank you so much. We do have a couple of questions, and I would like to tackle those right away. So one of them is from Simon about if you could talk a little bit about using a reflector for fill light.
A reflector is a great tool to have, very economical. Like you can get one for $50. And so, that sample that I used about using a window there where the model is lit from one side, you can hold a reflector by that window and use that light to bounce off and also light the other side of her face. So an excellent idea. I didn't get a chance to cover that, but definitely, yes, use a reflector, play around with reflecting the light, and works great.
Wonderful. Well, if we don't have any more questions, I will speak on behalf of everyone else since their mics are disabled. Thank you, Gil. It really is extremely valuable to have all of your experience and share your recommendations and your tips with us. Like you said, there were several sections that probably could have been their webinars on their own, but then again, everybody is really encouraged to reach out to Gil if you have any questions, if you'd like to have him go into a bit more detail in some of those areas. I know that he'd be delighted to be able to spend some time with you and walk you through that. Gil, is there anything that you want to say before we go?
Absolutely. I do invite you to message me directly and would love to just share more information and help you out. I believe that there is a ton of this kind of work out there. We're super busy all the time. So if I can help you find more work by selling this product and you be the one that's directing it and making it happen, then I think we're all going to succeed together.